Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. And our guest today is Zach Paul. So, Zach, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Hey, what's going on, Dan? Yeah, so my name is Zach Paul. I live in Austin, Texas, and I am a hypnotist and performance coach.
Awesome. So, how did you get started in being a hypnotist and performance coach? Like, what made you want to go into that?
Yeah, so I got into performance coaching by accident. It goes back to when I was in the military. I went through Navy SEAL training and got a brain injury after going through Hell Week. And I woke up out of a coma 3 days later and had to reteach myself how to talk, how to walk, and really how to rebuild my brain and my life from the ground up. Now, I learned a lot about performance in SEAL training and going through all of that. But the real challenge became, how do I actually take all the broken pieces and put them back together? And I tried all the usual stuff, right? Medicine, therapy, all the hoping for the best, right? All the usual stuff. That kind of worked to an extent. But what I found was a lot of that was really good at focusing on problems as opposed to actually solving my problems and getting me the results that I wanted. So if I'm being honest, things got really, really dark for a while. And there were a number of times where I flirted with the idea of suicide because I was just so unhappy and angry and pissed off and depressed about what had happened to me at the time, It just made perfect sense to end it all. And there was a time where I was laying on the couch thinking of the different ways I could do it. And I realized that this isn't me. This isn't how I want my story to go. So if, the psychology industry and the therapy and the doctors and none of that was going to work and do it for me, maybe I could do it myself. Because that's the thing about me is I've never believed there's anything I can't do. I've always just said, that's a crazy thing. I'm going to do it. Not how can I do it? Not can I do it? Just I'm going to do it and then just figure out how. And I've never given myself the option to fail or to not succeed in it. So I did the same thing with learning to rebuild my brain. And this took me down some weird rabbit holes. I spent time with Buddhist monks and some other spiritual groups and places. And then I got into neuroscience because I had heard about one of the nuggets that I did take away from therapy that I thought was helpful was they talk about this idea of neuroplasticity, which is where you can actually change the brain. Now, they don't really know how to do it in effective ways that get results for the most part, but I knew that it was a thing. So I started diving into neuroscience of how does this happen? How does the brain change? What do you actually have to do to create changes in the brain? And I took all these pieces. I took all the stuff from the SEALs that I learned, and then all the things from spirituality and Buddhism and these things about the mind, how to control the mind. And then these things from the neuroscience of how does the brain actually physically change? And I combined them all and ultimately built out a process and a set of tools that let me reprogram my brain like a computer. And all of a sudden, I wasn't bound by any limitations or anything else. I was just able to say, what do I want? What do I want to get rid of? Run it through the program, run it through the system, and then literally change my night like instantly or change my life. So that led me, and first I just did, so this was really born out of necessity. I did it because I needed it to save my life. And once I did that, other people started asking me what I was doing. And I started volunteering, helping veterans with brain injuries and serious traumas rebuild and get their lives back together after the military. And some of them started asking me for additional coaching and additional help. And I had to deconstruct. I'm like, okay, what did I do that worked? I spent the last 10 years studying, learning all this different stuff and trying to build out this set of tools that worked for me. So then I had to figure out how could I make this work for other people? And so I started working for veterans and these guys with a lot of issues. And after one of the guys, I helped him save his marriage, his family, and start a business that he wanted to start. I'm not the business coach, but I can program someone's mind to start and be successful in a business. So after I'd helped him with all that, he was very grateful and said, you're good at this. Do you ever think about doing this professionally? And that planted the seed. I'm like, now I do. So one thing led to another. And that ultimately took me into the business space where I work with a lot of sales leaders, managers, VPs, executives, partners, guys like that, and help them ultimately reprogram their brains for whatever outcomes they want, make more money, have better relationships. I've prevented 5 suicides that I know of so far, prevented 4 divorces, helped multiple companies scale their income, scale their revenue, grow, hit record sales months. helped a couple of people buy and sell businesses. Again, I'm not the M&A, mergers, acquisitions guy, but I can help someone get the mindset to do it. And then all sorts of other help people just really just change their lives to be happier, more peaceful, more fulfilled. And that's ultimately what got me where I'm at. And then as far as hypnosis, hypnosis was the most recent tool that I've added to the tool belt, because I started learning it from one of my mentors, and it was powerful for me. And I realized that there's no limit to how good you can get at changing somebody's life and changing somebody's mind. So I keep just stacking on skills and stacking abilities, because there's nothing more fulfilling to me than taking all the bullshit that I went through and all the pain, all the suffering, and all those things, and now using it to actually create meaningful, massive changes in other people's lives. So that's how I got here.
Amazing. So you mentioned that you work with lots of veterans, or you have, like, over the years. So in your opinion, what separates somebody that served in the military from somebody who didn't? 'Cause I think it's a very difficult thing. I think most people don't understand the trauma and the difficulty of somebody that serves, that they have to go through.
That's a good question. So the thing that separates veterans from civilians is a completely different life experience. You see, when you join the military, you leave this world. It's like Harry Potter leaving for Hogwarts, and you just step into this world where the rules are different, the laws are different, the way you communicate is different, the way you think about people, and it's a completely different world and way of thinking, operating, and being. And if you haven't, there's a saying that is, to those who don't understand, to those who know, no explanation is necessary, but to those who not, no explanation is possible. And that being said, I'm going to do the best that I can to explain it. So imagine you are whisked out of your world, right? You're living a normal, comfortable, happy life, reasonably happy. I think a lot of people in the military actually go in with some serious trauma, abuse, anger, depression. Like, there's a lot of that in there, which is a whole different piece of the conversation. But you leave the ordinary world, and all of a sudden you get whisked off and you go to this place, and the first thing that happens to you is your entire world is just shattered. I remember getting off the bus in Great Lakes, Chicago, where I went to boot camp, and the sheer mayhem, the terror, the chaos, the confusion, the yelling, the screaming, the spotlights, the cold, the not knowing what's going on. It's just an absolute mindfuck, and it completely breaks your reality. And I remember we get up and we get lined up in this hallway, and we're all standing up in ranks, just terrified, right? Just absolutely like, what have I gotten myself into? And there's no escape. There's no way out. You have signed on the dotted line. You were there. Like, you are committed. There's no escape. And I remember standing there, and the drill instructor, the guy with the big, angry yelling, is walking down the lines, and he's saying something to everybody in the line. And everybody is very, screaming in response to him. And it's some combination of like words and numbers. And I'm like, fuck, there's a question I'm supposed to know the answer to. I have no idea what they're talking about. And I'm panicking. And he gets 3 guys away from me. And the guy screams, Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he gets to the next guy and he screams something. Finally, as he steps in front of me, and I just see this fucking menacing anger in this guy's eyes, and the smell of coffee breath at midnight in my face. And he looks up at me expecting an answer. And I'm like, what is the question? But I don't have the balls to ask, what is the question? And all of a sudden, in just this moment of clarity, it clicked. I'm like, oh, last name, last 4 of my social security number. So I scream, Paul, I'm not going to say it right now, but I say it, and he looks down at the clipboard, checks it off, and moves on to the next person. But I've never been so terrified in my entire life. And the reality is, it's not the actual knowledge that I didn't have, it's the stress. So the whole thing about the military is they condition you to operate in very, very high levels of stress. And it starts with that from the first moment you get there. So once you've been stressed out and broken down, boot camp is designed to break you down, remove your identity, and then re-merge you into this group identity as part of this community, this group. And they're very, very good at it. They're incredibly good at it. And I've actually borrowed some of those techniques and tactics that I use with my own clients to help them change their identities and change their ways of operating to get what they want. So once you've been broken down and rebuilt back up with someone else's identity that you're given, right? You're no longer, my name is Zach Paul. I like playing guitar and dogs and nature and spending time with friends and family. Like that's gone, right? Now I'm a United States sailor. I was supported to defend the Constitution of the United States of America and obey the orders of those appointed. It's still in there. I can still do it, right? Then you get to SEAL training, and it's, in times of war or uncertainty, there's a special breed of warrior within, common man with uncommon desire to succeed. I am that man. Like it's all still in there. It's programmed in there. They're very, very good at it. So the first thing with going in the military is you just get broken down and lose your identity. Now, the next piece of it is there's no escape. There's no days off. You are in the military 24/7, 365. So it just becomes your lifestyle. And the other thing that I'll say that really differs people from the military from people that have not is the level of bonding and brotherhood that you get through mutual suffering and painful, terrible experiences that are designed to forge you closer together. There's a reason that SEAL training is done as a group, and the officers train with the enlisted, and everybody trains and suffers together because there is unity through suffering. I think some terrible government, I think that was their catchphrase, might have been a movie, but you suffer and you go through these terrible hardships, and nothing bonds humans together like suffering. So when you go through these experiences and you go through these hardships and these simulated, it's very intentionally designed to break you down and be difficult, but the bonds of friendship and brotherhood and camaraderie that you get from that experience are so powerful that it's very, very difficult to replicate anywhere else in any other environment. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of veterans struggle to reintegrate, because they've had these experiences and these powerful bonding moments you'll meet some of the greatest people in the world in the military. And you've had these experiences and this bonding, and now you get back out into the world, and it's like going back from Hogwarts back to, Privet Drive. I just watched Harry Potter, so it's fresh on my mind. But you go back into this ordinary world, and it's kind of dull, it's lackluster. And this is why a lot of guys struggle when they get back out of the military. It took me a long time to break that and to see the magic in the world and to find other great people in real life. But it can be very, very hard, especially getting out, because it's going from one world to another world is very abrupt.
Great. So in this whole scenario, I believe this is more towards like human efforts, more towards like direct interaction. But I'm just curious, how do you incorporate technology in your daily business? Because this is something else.
So you're asking, how do I take all that knowledge and use it in my daily, like for myself or for clients?
For your business, just to grow your business, like how how technology is helping you to grow your business.
Technology has been helping me to grow my business because it gives me access to people that I would have never been able to meet before, and it gives me leverage. And I think one of the most impactful things that somebody can do as a business is look for ways to increase their leverage and get more use out of the same activities. For example, right now, I'm doing a few different things. One, I'm appearing in a podcast, which will give me some exposure to new people. However, I'm also recording content. So this very clip right here is probably going to get chopped up and put onto my Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever like that, and put that out there. So I'm always looking for ways to grow my leverage and ways to increase how much I can do. How can I get more out of my time using technology? Because time is the most valuable resource of all. I don't care, like money, There's an infinite amount of money. You can always make more money. You can walk outside and make money. Like you can make money doing anything. Money is easy to make. You don't get time back. So I'm always thinking, if I'm going to invest time into something, how can I get the most out of it? How can I get the most return on my time? So that's one of the biggest ways as I'm using technology, is to just leverage multiple uses of my time to do the same thing in multiple ways. Now, it can also help with reaching people, right? I can take this video and post it, and by putting the right words to it, reach people. And somebody that's never seen me or heard of me before that needs help with what I do could see the video, resonate with it, like it, find their way into my ecosystem, and literally change their entire life just from using a piece of technology. So I would say for me, that's the biggest way that technology has been helping to grow my business. Now we also use it when somebody signs up, they get onboarded. There's a whole automated sequence that kicks off, and they get a bunch of stuff that just happens automatically. That's pretty cool. And to be honest, though, I know that I'm not with the rate of technology is going and growing, and all the AI that's coming out every single day. I know that I am not using technology nearly to the capacity that it's capable of. So that's an area of opportunity for me.
Great. So, do you think there is some possibility to use AI in your field and make the things more artificially intelligent and produce more performance and utilize the time more efficiently? So, do you think there is anything that can fit into this frame?
Yeah, for me, the ways that artificial intelligence can make what I'm doing more efficient is one, with marketing. I have however many hundreds of hours of sales calls, call notes. When somebody signs up with me, they fill out onboarding forms and surveys. So I have a lot of data about the people that I work with. So one of the ways that I use technology and artificial intelligence specifically has been to put my data through these AIs and ask it questions, right? Take all this data and synthesize. What are the insights? What is the biggest thing? What's the number one? I actually just spent a lot of time doing this on Monday, was feeding all my data back into the AI and asking it to synthesize and explain it back to me. And I actually got some big insights that I wouldn't have seen just looking at the data myself. Now, another one where I want to go with this is right now what I have is I have a process, right? I have a process and I have a system and I have a series of tools that allows somebody to get rid of fear, get rid of doubt, get confident, and change their entire life just through changing their mindset. And right now it requires me to be there to at least partially deliver. And they need to be able to talk to me, run their stuff through me, and then for me to interpret their data and then give it back to them in the ways, here's how to apply these tools to your situation. And it's been very, very effective. And I've helped people get crazy good results. However, my time is not scalable. So the next level of this for me is taking these tools and these processes, and the process just works, period. If somebody goes through the process and does all the steps, it has a 100% success rate. So the next challenge becomes taking all those tools and processes and taking what's in my brain as far as how to interpret it and putting it all together into a piece of technology, which can then be licensed out or given out or used to help people. So instead of me only being able to work with people one-on-one or in small groups for tens of thousands of dollars, I can put this into a piece of technology and license it to people that need help with mental health and people that need help with depression and anxiety and fear and these things that are dragging them down, and be able to give it to somebody for something very, very affordable to the average person. And one of the things I actually want to do this year is I'm looking at doing a case study with the VA with some veterans, and I want to get this licensed to the healthcare industry, because there are a lot of gaps in the healthcare industry where people are falling through. And a lot of people get, there's a statistic where 92% of men who commit suicide were already in or seeking some form of mental health treatment, and 80% of them were deemed not a high risk for suicide. That's fucking crazy, and just shows how ineffective the industry is, especially for men. And there's good guys, there's last statistic they measured was 22 veterans killed themselves every single day. And given what I know about the military, a lot of them were probably in mental health care and just completely fell through the cracks or did not get the treatment that they needed to actually solve their problems. So I am incredibly passionate about this because I was almost one of them, and I never want that to be anybody else. And I know what it feels like to be there and feel like it's hopeless and feel like that seems like a good way out. So what I really want to do is take those stuff that I built for myself that saved my life and has changed hundreds of other lives, and I want to scale it using technology and use it to change millions of lives and really ultimately overhaul a broken system that does not get people results.
This is horrible. Like, these insights are horrible, man. So I believe, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. So I believe people also have lack of awareness in this whole scenario. People have lack of awareness, where I think this is your big responsibility to educate the people and spread the awareness more on it.
Yeah, I think
looks like there's still a gap in the people who are committing suicide, and therapists like you. So there's a big gap which should be covered to reduce this ridiculous thing.
So a few of the problems are, one is that there's so much misinformation and misunderstanding about anxiety, depression, and all these things in the brain. And I'm going to go very, very hard against mainstream psychology here right now, because the numbers of people in therapy and seeking out mental health treatment are increasing, and the numbers of people with anxiety and depression and suicides are increasing. All these numbers are increasing together, which tells me that this isn't solving the problem. And a huge part of the reason why that is because the mainstream psychology industry and the therapy industry says that these are medical conditions. And it says that it's something that you have to learn to live with and cope with. And most strategies out there are learning how to cope with your symptoms and manage your symptoms, which is complete bullshit. You do not need to learn to cope with and manage your systems. You can just fix them. These are not random processes that are just happening to people. I just have anxiety. I just have depression. It's genetic. No, it's not. There's a cause for every single piece of it. Now, yes, there's some outlier, small percentage of people that genuinely have some sort of genetic chemical predisposition. But the vast majority of people with anxiety and depression are causing it themselves through either the actions they're doing or the things they're not doing. Now, I'm big on accountability and ownership. And so when someone works with me, I'm very much on, I cannot do this for you. I will tell you what to do, but you have to do it yourself. Because at the end of the day, only we can create our own happy chemicals. And I was actually personally mentored by one of the top researchers who literally wrote the book on happy brain chemicals and how to apply them. Not just theoretically, here's how it works, but here's how to actually do it. Tangible steps that you can do to increase your serotonin, your dopamine, your endorphin, your oxytocin, and reduce your cortisol. There's actual things that you can do to go change your brain chemistry and get rid of the feelings of depression and anxiety and increase the overall happiness and reduce stress. And this isn't talked about. They just say, oh, it's a condition. Take these meds, treat the symptoms. But you can treat the symptoms as just playing whack-a-mole with the symptoms. If you want to really, really fix this stuff, you have to get to the root cause of it. And this is what the industry misses. They did a great study where they took all of these lifetime, they did a great study where they took these long-term depressive patients that had decades-long clinical depression, and they thought they was hopeless and they would never be able to get better. And they tried all the therapy and all the meds and all the different things, and nothing worked. And what they did is they took these people and they took them outside and they put them in a group and they gave them something to do, which in this case was growing a garden and tending to a garden to give food to underprivileged kids. And probably guess what happened, but practically overnight, everybody's depression disappeared. Why? Because one, they were outside getting sunlight. Two, they were part of a community getting serotonin. Three, they were part of a purpose, getting dopamine and oxytocin. And they were doing something, right? They were being active instead of just sitting out thinking about how sad they are. And what the problem with a lot of anxiety and depression is people, and the problem with even therapy with it is people just focus on the feeling and feeling sad and talk about the trauma and the pain and talk about how bad it is. And all that does is strengthen those feelings, and it resends signals down those pathways, and the brain brings up those memories, remembers those feelings. So a lot of these interventions are actually counterproductive because it just makes it worse. But when you get people out of it and you give them something else to look at and something else to focus on and something to do and a purpose and people, depression goes away overnight. So this whole thing where like it's a thing that you have to learn to cope with and live with and manage your symptoms is just total bullshit. Things can be fixed, they can be treated. Now there's no money in the treatment, right? There's money in the medication.
Prescription. Yeah, like yeah, 100%. I think it's like so many people I know are taking antidepressants every single day. And I think to your point, people are not even thinking or looking at the holistic way of treating it. It's just, quick fix, quick fix. This is, as you know, pharma is a $1 trillion industry, or whatever crazy number. But it's, that's really what it is. I mean, it's 100% spot on. I think people are not even trying those methods that you're talking about.
No, and therapy is a job, and therapy is a job where they actually get rewarded and incentivized for sucking at their job and not getting results for their patients, because they don't charge enough to make it really, really anything worthwhile, right? So, okay, cool, come spend a couple $100, $200 on a session. And if they just fix it, because these things can be fixed, right? You said there's no quick fix. I have a quick fix. I've turned around suicides, major long-term depressive cases in less than a couple of weeks. Like these things can be fixed very, very quickly if you know how to actually get to the root cause of it and change it. And I have a process that I take people through that literally goes to the root cause of anxiety and depression and these feelings and just switches it and flips it off. And now you don't feel those feelings anymore. So it can actually, change can happen very, very quickly. But there's no money in fixing it quickly, which is why I charge a lot of money to work with me. But the reality is if you come back and they're incentivized for not getting results and for sucking at their job because they get paid the longer they keep you back. And I hear about people like, I've been in therapy for 7 years. I'm like, why? That's crazy. Why is it taking 7 years? It does not need to take 7 years. But again, most therapists in this whole industry doesn't know how to actually fix people's problems or doesn't see the validity of it. So, that's I think a big piece that's missing from the conversation. And that's a big part of my mission, is to come out there and really help fix an industry to help people, because it's not about the money. It's not about the industry. It's not about anything. It's literally, at the end of the day, it's literally about making the world a better place. And I feel really, really good about myself going to bed, knowing that there are people out there that are still alive. There are kids that still have a father. There are families that are still together, literally because of the things that I've done and I've helped them do. And now I didn't do it for them, right? I only showed them how to do it, gave them the tools, and they had to make it happen for themselves. So I say I co-create success stories, but there's no greater sense of fulfillment for me than that. So that's why I do what I do. And at the end of the day, don't we all want to wake up to a better world tomorrow where everybody's happier, healthier, more peaceful, more productive? Because I don't know, that's the world I want to live in tomorrow. I want to live in a world where everybody has just the total freedom in every aspect of their lives to go out and do whatever they want to do and to create and enjoy and live fulfilling lives. Because if everybody was living with that, from freedom and from joy and from abundance, like how awesome would this world be? It's already awesome, but that much more awesome.
No, 100%. What you're doing is really amazing, and I think that, hopefully that, this can reach more people, because I think that more people need to know that, that you exist and that what you're doing, I think, is really a great mission. So, In terms of that, do you mind sharing if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, what your website is, like just the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so best way to get in contact with me is probably through social media, actually, is where I'm most responsive. On Instagram, it's Zach David Paul, one word, ZachDavidPaul. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, same thing, Zach David, Facebook/Zach David Paul, LinkedIn. And my email is actually zach@sonasen.com, which is spelled SONASEN.com. I also have rebuilding the website right now, but there's a website called sealtoshark.com that has some stuff that's a couple years old, so we're rebuilding it right now. But if you can even drop I'll give you the social links if you can drop them in the notes. But yeah, if anybody's listening to this and you've been trying to get some results that you haven't been able to get, maybe it's anxiety, depression, maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, you've hit a plateau, you've hit a glass ceiling, maybe your relationship isn't where you want it to be and you can do better, but you just haven't figured out how. Maybe you've tried therapy and meditating and reading all the books and watching all the YouTube, but still haven't been able to make it happen. Hit me up, reach out to me. Love to have a conversation, figure out what's going on in your life. And if I can help you fix it, I will show you how to fix it. So that's my invitation to anybody in your audience.
Awesome. Well, once again, Zach, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure. We're rooting for you. Best of luck. And, just keep inspiring people and changing people's lives. I think it's an amazing mission.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Because for me, my marketing sucks. The hardest part about building this business right now is I've got a great product. I'm great at what I do. I'm good at sales. Like all these pieces are there, but my marketing is people don't know what I do and how I do it. So that is the biggest thing that I appreciate about you having me on this podcast is helping me get the message out and talk about these things. So I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And looking forward to seeing where the future goes.
Sounds great. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Yes.
Nice to talk to you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.